welcome to another Chairman of the Board review. Today I'm going to be talking about Flamme Rouge, which is a racing game for 2 to 4 players based on the Tour de France. So let's show you how it's played and then I'll get into my thoughts on this racing game. I hope you enjoy. Okay, so the first thing you are going to want to do is to set up the actual track. And the game comes with a number of these suggested tracks here. As you can see, I've got the, if I can just focus, the Milano one here. And as you can see, each section of track comes with a letter on it. So what I've done here is, as you can see, the start is A, this tile has A on, and you're just going to follow that all the way around until you've got the complete track. Then you are going to give each player one of these player boards, a deck of sprinter cards and a deck of roller cards. You're also going to give them the corresponding figures here. So you've got the sprinter figure and the roller figure. Then each player is going to take turns in deploying their riders behind the start line, and then we should be good to go. Okay, so the game is going to play like this. So each player is going to draw 4 cards from the top of one of their decks. You've got the sprinter cards and the roller cards. So I've started with the sprinter cards here. The difference between the sprinter and the roller is basically that the sprinter kind of has the potential to go faster, but can also go slower, where the roller is a bit more consistent in his moves. And these reference cards are really useful in helping you remember how many of each number are in the deck. So once you've drawn your 4 cards, you're going to choose one of the cards to play this round. And unfortunately, I only drew 3s and 2s this round, so I'm going to either move 3 squares or 2 squares. So let's choose the 3. Now the remaining cards that you didn't choose are going to be discarded and played later in the game, whereas the one I have chosen is going to be resolved and then eliminated from the game for good. Once you've selected one move from your other cyclist, then you can select the other one. So I've drawn the 4 cards for my roller here, and I'm going to choose which one to play. So I'm going to choose the 5, and again these 3 are going to get discarded over here and hopefully will be played later in the game. This one again will be resolved simultaneously with all the other players, but once it has been resolved, it's going to be eliminated from the game for good. So once each player has chosen their 2 cards in secret, everybody is going to flip them simultaneously. Starting from the front of the pack, each rider is going to move a number of squares equal to the card played. So let's say the blue moved 7 spaces. So it would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then that's my red sprinter. So the red sprinter, as you can see from the card here, I only move 3 spaces. So I go 1, 2, 3. Now it's important to say that if nobody is sharing a line with you, then you always go to the outside lane, or the lane here with the 2 lines on. Let's say from the first round, all the riders are going to look like this. Now we do something called slipstreaming. Now from the back of the pack, each rider with a gap between them, like this, will push up into the next pack. So they will push up like this, and then we resolve the next pack. As you can see, there's another gap here. Then these would all push up too. After the slipstreaming has been resolved, then any rider in front of a pack takes an exhaustion card. So for example here, the blue sprinter is in front of this pack, so he would take one of these exhaustion cards and put it in their discard pile. Now that means that later in the game that they're going to draw more of those 2 cards, which will obviously slow you down as the game progresses. So the game is basically going to follow that format for the whole race until somebody crosses the finish line. But there are other things to look out for, and they are the hills. So we have uphills here, which are these red squares, and also downhills here, which are the blue squares. Now uphills are very interesting because they only allow you to move a maximum of 5 squares no matter what card you play. So say for example this black roller played a 7, I would normally go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? But because I came in contact with a hill, my movement would be restricted to 5 squares. So those extra 2 bits of movement would actually be completely written off, and I would only ever be able to move the 5 squares. Also, on uphills, there is no slipstreaming. So say for example here, at the end of a round, these cyclists ended up like this. Normally he would be able to slipstream up, right? But because he's on an uphill, there is no way to slipstream. So both these riders would end up taking exhaustion cards. Now the way downhill works is almost opposite of the uphills, where no matter what card you play, you will move at least 5 squares. So say for example here, I played this 2 exhaustion card, I would still get my full 5 movement. So I would end up going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, even though I played a 2 card. Also, slipstreaming works on downhills. So downhills are a really useful way to get rid of the lower cards in your deck. Now the chances are that you're going to get a lot of close finishes in Flamme Rouge. And to determine a winner in the event where 2 riders pass the finish line on the same turn, then it's the rider who's got furthest along or furthest past the finish line. So say for example, he only got 2 past and this guy ended up getting 4 past. Even though they finished on the same turn, then it's the rider who got furthest along that's the winner. So in this example, the black would win the race. Now, for such a simple set of rules, it is actually very tricky to be as efficient as you'd like to be during a game of Flamme Rouge. Now, obviously, with that slipstreaming mechanic, you're going to want to throw in some lower cards in order to leech off the other players. But if you play a card that's too low, you're going to get left behind the pack and end up taking exhaustion cards for yourself. So getting that balance is very, very tricky. Now, a lot of the fun and tough choices come from predicting what the other players are going to do. But if you are in a particularly strong position, you can actually use your movement to block other players, which is actually a really good tactical decision, especially on the brows of those hills, because if you time it just right and you block someone from getting over a hill, then you're going to restrict their movement for the next turn. And I just love that extra layer of kind of being a little bit cunning and that interaction between the other players too. Now, simultaneous action selection is one of my favourite mechanics in board games, and it really shines in Flamme Rouge. There's very little downtime, so all players are engaged at all times. But what I really love about the game is knowing when and where to make a break for the finish. Because if you try to pull away too early, before you know it, you're going to be drawing nothing but exhaustion cards, and you're going to be dragging your heels along that final stretch. But if you wait too long, then you're just going to be stuck behind everybody else, and you're going to miss your opportunity. So that tough decision of when should I make a break? Am I going to leave it too long, or am I going too early? It's just really compelling and so much fun. As I mentioned earlier, Flamme Rouge does a great job of keeping all the players engaged. Now, more likely than not, every race is going to be super tight, and it always seems like anybody can win. And I love that, because every finish of every race is going to be so nail-biting, and just when you have that one card or your one high card left, and everybody else has spent theirs, and you end up bombing on that final stretch and winning, it is such an exciting time. Now, the game is mostly tactical, as you're going to be trying to predict what other players are going to play. And also, you're also obviously restricted to the luck of the draw, those 4 cards. But by playing as efficiently as possible, it does always feel like the best player is going to win, because if you play those right cards at the right time, that is going to be the difference between winning and losing. For example, saving your exhaustion cards for downhill, knowing where to push forward or when to drop back and try to push the exhaustion cards onto other riders. And every decision is crucial in this game. And I absolutely love games that kind of reward clever play. And I think Flamme Rouge does that. The rules themselves are super simple, and I've had no trouble at all teaching this game to players of all ages and all skill levels. The only thing that might need a little bit of getting used to is the way that the discarding of the cards happens and the reshuffling, etc. But after a turn or two, they're going to know exactly what to do. Also be warned that there is a lot of shuffling in this game, so that's just, it's a minor nitpick, but some people don't like shuffling a lot of cards, and there is a lot of shuffling in Flamme Rouge. But for me, it's no issue at all. The level of player interaction is really good. Everything that every player is going to do is going to affect you in one way or another. whether it's blocking you or whether it's giving or receiving slipstreaming ability. It's just super interesting how, how each rider is going to interact with each other. And I love that there's no real nastiness in this at all. It's so chilled out, and it's just really kind of a positive level of interaction where you're not actually trying to destroy anybody's race, you're just trying to do the best as you can. And I like that about Flamme Rouge. Now, I think what impresses me most about Flamme Rouge is how the designers have gone about integrating the theme into the mechanics of the game. The way the slipstreaming works and the way that the hills work are so simple but so effective. It really does make the game feel like a cycling game and not just a generic racing game. And that is so clever how they've done that without sacrificing any of the simplicity. And it really is genius. And honestly, I think a lot of game designers could learn a lot from how very simple mechanics can aid the feel of a game. All of the components are of a really good quality. I particularly like the track, and I think it looks awesome when it's set up. All the track pieces are reversible, so you get loads of replayability that way. And the riders are a little fiddly, but I do like the way they look. The cards themselves are a little bit bland, but again, they're of very good quality, in fact. I mean, I've shuffled them a lot and they've held up very well. And they're, again, very functional. So overall, component quality is very good. In terms of replayability, I think Flamme Rouge is excellent. The game comes with a large amount of the suggested tracks which you can try out, and you'll have a very different feel. But of course, there's nothing stopping you from building your own track, which is really interesting. The game also there is the possibility of downloading an app which allows you to kind of make your own little tour, so you can determine a winner over a number of races rather than just the one. And the way it's designed is very clever, so I recommend you check that one out. I also feel that the game scales in a very different way, because if you play with 2 players, the chances are you're going to get a lot of exhaustion, perhaps there's not going to be a lot of slipstreaming. But if you play with 4 players, then you're going to get blocked a lot more, but there's going to be a lot more slipstreaming. So you get very different experiences depending on the player count. Overall, I am a huge advocate for Flamme Rouge. I think the game is excellent. I'm not into racing or cycling at all, which I thought might kind of detract me from enjoying the game as much as I could. But it has not been a problem at all. The game is so elegant, so much fun, and it is just an absolutely great experience for all players of all skill levels, of all ages. Honestly, I could not recommend this one enough. It has become my staple racing game, and I can't really see anything replacing it for a long time to come. If you want something simple, accessible, and just engaging and fun, then Flamme Rouge is the game for you, whether you like cycling or not. So I hope you've enjoyed this review. This has been Chairman of the Board. If you've enjoyed the video, please hit like and subscribe to my channel and check out my other videos. For everyone else, I will see you next time.